Good morning. I'm Pam Perry, and I'm with the Arizona Herb Association. I'm one of the curators of this herb garden. It's a demonstration garden at the Maricopa County Cooperative Extension at 4341 East Broadway Road. We have a collection of herbs here that work well and grow for people in the valley. How long has this garden been here, Mike?
So this garden's been here since 1989. The extension office has been here since probably the 20s or 30s, but we have maintained as the Arizona Herb Association a public education garden since 1989, trying out different herbs, trying out different varieties to see what grows here, how to grow it so we can educate the public. And we have a nice mix of herbs from around the world, as well as many of our local native species from the Sonoran Desert and the Upland Desert here in Arizona, and things that have traditional uses amongst our native peoples, and things from Europe that have traditional uses amongst other people in Europe or Asia. So many, many different plants. We welcome visitors to the garden. It's open to the public 24/7. It has signage on the plants with usage of the plants, names, where they originate from, and come down and enjoy yourself. This is a great opportunity. We're going to take you today through some specific sections and plants that might be of interest, but the idea here is that there's many, many herbs that you can grow in the Valley of the Sun, in Arizona, without worrying about what you used to grow back in your other home in Wisconsin or Maryland or England. So come down and enjoy yourself. We'll take you on a quick tour of some plants in the garden. This beautiful orange plant is a calendula, or in England called a pot marigold. They come in yellows and oranges, various shades. They're annuals here. We plant them in the fall and they grow and bloom in the early spring, late winter. Edible flower, dye plant traditionally used to make yellows and oranges. The beautiful purple flowers here are sweet peas. It's an old-fashioned, very highly scented variety that's been volunteering here in our garden for 20 years. So we do harvest the seeds and sell them locally to fund some scholarships for our group. And then you're wondering, what's this brown, ugly tree here? This is a pomegranate. They go dormant here in the wintertime. Many, many varieties of pomegranate can be grown. They've been grown in the Southwest here since the Spaniards came in the 1600s and brought them with them from Europe. But a traditional edible fruit, medicinal plant, and can also be, parts of it can be used as a dye plant. Kind of continuing here, here's another European plant. This is a traditional oregano, an Italian oregano. We have many different varieties of oregano and marjoram related to each other, growing in our garden so that people can taste and try different ones. And one of the clues here is the plant gets very large. So if you're harvesting regularly, you can keep it smaller, but realize when you're planting a herb garden how big the mature plants get. Very critical to see. The blooming white flowers are cilantro here. As we get some warm days in late winter, they bloom and bolt and grow up and make a critical flowering plant for pollinators. Ladybugs love them, as well as many different native bees and honeybees. The pink flowering plant is a Chukracura, which is a Southeast Asian salad or cooked green plant with a nice sour taste to it, given to us by a local community garden. So we're always trying something new that we haven't tried before. You'll recognize this as the Italian parsley. It's a dark green plant, thriving. We planted them in the fall. You can plant from seeds or from transplants, and something to try in your garden. Easy to grow, but realize it's a biennial. It lives about a year and a half, bolts and blooms. That's how Mother Nature made them grow. We have a little patch of alfalfa. Other parts of the world call it lucerne, a traditional plant for cows to eat, chickens to eat, but also for humans to use in salads and as an edible green, medicinal plant, and a dye plant. And we'll end up here, we've got a nice little patch of different varieties of cilantro or coriander, trying out to see different varieties that might have a longer season of green harvest before they bolt with the heat. And so we've planted 4 different varieties of slow bolting cilantro to see what really takes slow. And we'll end up here with our nice Mexican elderberry tree. It's native to this region, grew traditionally along stream banks and creeks, and it's been used as a medicine plant by the native peoples for years. They also grow different varieties of elderberry in Europe, and again, traditionally used as a ceremonial plant, a medicinal plant, edible plant, and very, very good plant to have. We've struggled with this plant. We've had it here for about 3 years, and it finally this year took. So be patient with your plants. Make sure you have them in the right location and give them a little bit of time to settle in and do well. This year it's finally bolting up and has some nice growth. So in another couple months, we'll decide how we're going to grow it.
At this point, we're looking at some Coreopsis. This is a modern, slightly hybridized version. There are annual Coreopsis, there are perennial Coreopsis. They make great cut flowers. They're a dye plant in many parts of the Americas. It is an American wildflower that grows and looks good in any garden. Interplanted with it is garlic. Garlic is a fall planted herb. We separate the cloves, the big head of garlic, into cloves, the individual pieces, and put them into preferably rich, well-amended soil. They grow in full sun all winter long, looking strappy. We get to May and they start to brown out and lean over. That is when you know it is time to harvest your garlic. We, in our culture, think of garlic as an important herb in cooking in almost any culture. It also has some interesting magical attributes of being able to, if you wore your garlic around your neck, it would keep the plague and evil away. So I want mine in my salad. There's another Coreopsis here. Here, we'll look at this Coreopsis, and tucked in behind this Coreopsis is a little butterfly plant. This is one of the Asclepias. Asclepias are known for their relationship with monarchs and queens. And butterflies, they are a little sad in the winter. But as the new growth appears, it shows up in time for the annual migration of monarchs, and young caterpillars much prefer eating tender new growth. So there is a number of butterfly plants throughout this garden. Some of them are completely dormant. Some of them are beginning to show signs of new growth at this time of year. We just let them do their thing and go through their cycles. Coming along the line, we have a collection of Salvia officinalis in this garden. Salvia officinalis is what we know of as sage in our kitchens. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. There's lots and lots of salvias. We'll look at a couple more of them. The one is a red one. We've got the golden bicolor, and a Bergarten, which is a named variety in here. They're frightfully finicky in Phoenix about monsoon. They really do not do well. So we consider them a fall planted annual. Grow your sage, harvest it when it becomes robust, use it, learn how to preserve it for summer and into early fall when your new plants begin to get going again. As we come down along the line, we have a pot of madder showing new growth. Madder is a traditional European herb used to get a color, a shade of red. And it's a lot like mint. It will escape into your garden if you're collecting dye plants in an herb garden. So we put this one in a pot to keep it corralled. And about once a year it gets a hard haircut and comes back to us. And then we have a lavender blooming in full style in the back. This is a fern leaf lavender. This one in a good winter goes all winter long if we get a hard freeze. If we get a hard freeze, it will die back some. You give it a haircut, it'll put on new growth. It has bloomed year round in this garden. And last but not least is the moringa tree. This can be a 40-foot plant. And one of the big discussions every month is exactly how we're going to manage something that large in our garden. And we may take up bonsai in this garden and turn it into a large bonsai in order to keep it in proportion to the rest of our plants. The leaves, the flowers, and the seed pods are all edible on this plant. It's got all sorts of health attributes and medicinal characteristics. It's an interesting plant to incorporate into an herb garden.
Take a little quick tour of some sections as we move to another part of the garden. So we have in here our blooming cilantro again, tansy, traditional European plant, foxgloves, another European plant with long traditional medicine use, and a range of different rosemaries. We plant many different flowering plants through the winter for pollinators. Native plants as native flowers as well as introduced. So here we have a lupin, native lupin growing next to European violas. And here we have some gaillardias, Indian blanket flowers, which are native to the prairies of the U.S. Great pollinator plants for butterflies, native bees, honeybees. Why do we have logs in our garden? The logs provide a nesting place for some of our native bee species who nest in wood. And a wonderful reddish green plant here is our Mexican tarragon, a perfect substitute for French tarragon, which struggles in our climate. And a lavender that's been blooming all winter long. This is a Grosso variety that does really well in our climate with proper soil preparation. We have many plants that are dormant this time of year, and that's normal. We're going through our winter. So we have here a catmint plant, which has gone dormant, but we've trimmed it down. It's coming back up. And the cat thyme, the same thing. It's just starting to come out of dormancy and bloom. These are both other plants that cats appreciate and people can make medicines out of. We grow different herbs in pots, large pots, to show that you can grow things here in pots if you have a small garden, as long as you use larger pots to cool the roots. And at the back we have a nice vitex tree. This is a tree from Southern Europe with many traditional medicinal uses, in also great for pollinators. It blooms here all summer long for butterflies, native bees, and honeybees. Our paper plant is dormant at the moment. Excuse me, but they do grow very well here with extra drainage. European plant. And then just kind of skittering along, we have butterfly plants, we have carrots from Europe that are going to bloom for pollinators. We have our Artemisia, this silvery gray plant in the background, which is a traditional medicinal plant in Europe. Grows very, very well here. And our red plant is a great hibiscus that grows as an edible plant. Perfectly tasty leaves, nice and sour.
When you visit the garden, you'll notice that there are a lot of rosemaries planted. We have signs on them. They are all different varieties of rosemary. One of the interesting characteristics is that they all bloom at different times, offering a real wide range from early winter right into late fall of nectar to our bees that visit and support our native populations of beneficial insects as well. So they all have different growth habits, they all have different bloom times, they all have different flavors. And one of the most important things you have to remember as you plant your culinary herb garden is to taste your herbs before you buy them. They don't all taste alike. So if you don't like it in the store, you may not like it at home any better. So keep tasting before you buy. And take a look just when you come to visit at the diversity in rosemaries available just to us here in Phoenix these days. Absolutely spectacular landscape plant, great herb garden plant, great backbone for a garden plant. The lavenders have been blooming. It's been a very interesting winter, and we have both a French lavender and a Goodwin Creek gray lavender blooming. The flower stems are a little bit different. The flavors on these lavenders are radically different. It's a personal subjective decision on which lavender you use to make lavender scones or lavender lemonade. The big gray plant behind the lavenders is chaparral sage, or Salvia clevelandii, beginning to bloom. This is one of the few salvias that made it through last summer's monsoon and is coming back more robust than ever. Most salvias really struggle here, so if you're planting salvias and not having a great deal of success, understand it's the nature of salvias rather than a problem with the way you garden. Again, we have a great big barbecue or Helga rosemary. Keeping this one contained in a garden is a challenge, but it's a great plant. The stems are stiff and sturdy. They make good sticks if you're going to be doing barbecue on the grill. We come around, and our brittle bush, one of our native herbs, is in full bloom. This is great for pollinators this time of year. It definitely is a composite plant offering lots and lots of pollen and nectar to visiting bees. Traditionally, the sap from this plant was collected and used as an incense in all sorts of ceremonial activities. It is a medicinal. It's been used in poultices as well, so it's a very well-known, very, very actively used native herb that was used long before Europeans brought more herbs to the Americas.
So we are also always trying out new things here. So we've got dill seed, which grows here very well in the wintertime as a crop. And it's one of our challenges with it in the low desert gardens is that it bolts and blooms early. This is an annual plant, no matter where you plant it in the world. Does bloom in the spring and dies in the summer. But here we see it bolt and bloom very rapidly and early. So we picked up some different varieties of seed, planted them all at the same time. We're going to see which ones bolt and bloom a little slower. Fantastic pollinator plant, attracts ladybugs. And in the background, we've mixed in a plant of a native tree, a herbal tree that's related to frankincense. This is the torote or elephant tree. Grows just south of Phoenix in the mountain preserve and all the way down across the border into Mexico. Many, many traditional medicinal uses, fantastic fragrance on the plant, needs extra drainage, needs some protection from a winter chill, so we have some rocks around it, which does in its native habitat. And just a great little plant. This started 3 years ago as a 3-inch pot. It's now 2 feet tall and thriving, doing very well. Another rosemary plant. So we have 2 different kinds of aloe. This is false aloe vera. So aloe vera has yellow blooms and is the true aloe vera from probably from the Canary Islands originally. This one is from North Africa and is used for the same medicinal uses as aloe vera, but it's actually aloe masawana. Lemongrass comes from Southeast Asia, thrives here. Ours has a little bit of frost nip on it. We had some cold nights here in the middle of the winter. Typically we would be pulling some stems and giving them to attendees at our herb festival. It grows very, very well here, and here's the beautiful fat stem you would use in a cooking recipe. Also to propagate it. So excellent plant, easy to grow, tropical, loves the heat, doesn't like the cold. We've got a few little projects here with our arch. Germander is a European plant, but it blooms very well for pollinators. And then some different varieties of chamomile we've had naturally reseeding here. Grows as a winter annual, blooms in the spring. We can harvest it as a medicinal, and then it blooms out after feeding the pollinators, and we can harvest the seeds or let them drop naturally. Move into a section here of our more native type plants, or North American type natives. So this is ephedra. We have 2 different species of ephedra here that grow in different parts. This one grows in the Sonoran Desert. Behind it, a small plant grows more up on the Navajo reservation and struggles a little bit maybe with our summer heat. The big vining plant is from South America, a traditional lipia that's tastes like lemons and is used in many traditional medicines in South America. Native pollinator plant, globe mallow, has some medicinal uses as well as a pollinator plant. And then Dodonea or hopseed bush thrives here in the low desert as a landscaping plant that also benefits pollinators. It's very good for quite a few different kinds of medicines from different parts of the world actually use this plant. And then other native plants here, we have some skullcaps, which are traditionally used in Europe as medicines, but we also have some native skullcaps, and they're semi-dormant right now. So again, during this time of the year, some plants look a little bit off, and we leave them alone. The birds are harvesting the seeds off of them. When the plants start to green up in the spring, we'll trim it back. Our yarrow, as you can see, is dormant right now. The stems are there from last year's. It'll drop some seeds, but it will come up from underground from the crowns. Bee bush, bee brush, there's a couple different species of this used as a culinary. Tastes a little bit like oregano, but very, very good for pollinators. This will be covered with butterflies, native bees, and honeybees later on this spring as it blooms out. So our garden at Bottom Line is a demonstration garden to demonstrate ways that you can grow plants here, herbs that you can use at home, things that you can attract pollinators and birds to your garden. We have many different bird species here on the grounds. But on each Saturday of the month, or first Saturday of each month year round, all 12 months, we meet in the morning, first Saturday of the month, as a volunteer group. Our Herbie members, Maricopa County Master Gardeners, people from community gardens in the areas, and community members who watch our Facebook page. So like our Facebook page, Arizona Herb Association, to see posts about our next garden workday events. When you're here, you learn hands-on. You're digging in the garden, you're learning how to plant the plants, how to plant seeds, when to plant certain things, when not to plant them, and also what to harvest and what to use. And we always send our volunteers home with a few extra plants and volunteers from the garden. So please come and join us. If you cannot join us then, come and tour the garden. It's open 24/7, public tours, and you'll enjoy yourself just learning from the signage that's here, even if you're not here on one of our work days. But we would appreciate you coming and helping us out, digging a little bit and learning hands-on with your hands in the dirt. So we'll talk a few more plants here that are natives, that are critical plants, plants that you might know. This is our jojoba plant. We have a male jojoba just starting to bloom and a female nearby blooming. This is the jojoba that the oil or wax comes from, that's used in cosmetics and other traditional medicines. And many native peoples were using this as medicine as well. The dark green plant is creosote or chaparral, another traditional medicine plant amongst our native peoples and traditional peoples in the area. Many current uses for it, but it's also a fantastic pollinator plant. There are several species of bees that use this as a primary food source, as well as some butterflies and a native praying mantises can be found on it typically. Here's a plant at the bottom, Poliomyntha incana, frosted mint. This looks like rosemary, but it actually smells like mint. It's native to northern Mexico and parts of the Southwest, including Arizona. Traditional plant with traditional uses in culinary and medicines. And then this beautiful plant with the tiny purple flowers is a great pollinator plant being visited this morning by some honeybees. But we'll find native bees on it, hummingbirds going after the little tiny flowers, and native bees and butterflies. So it's a great plant with traditional uses, easy to grow here, and thrives in the right conditions. This plant is about 15 years old. So we would appreciate inviting you to come and join us at any time.
We welcome new members. There's no particular time you have to join. You can join easily by going to our Facebook page. There's a PayPal click that sends the money in the direction. When you join, you not only get the opportunity to garden elbow to elbow with experienced valley gardeners. We have gardeners who have been in this garden since 1986 almost. They coach us now. And you get a wonderful newsletter. You get to enjoy the meetings. Right now we're virtual, but we've got a great program lined up for the next few months of various herb-related, plant-related topics. We have workshops on using herbs for both culinary and medicinal and therapeutic means. The group meets with a subgroup called the culinary group. We pick a theme and cook to a theme and share potluck with friends and fellow enthusiasts. So it's a group that sponsors scholarships to a number of educational programs. We work with Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, the Maricopa Master Gardener program, to encourage education about herbs at higher levels. So it's a very active, entertaining group of gardeners who really enjoy a variety of activities. We love to have you find your way and become one of us.
So please come join us at any time, and we'd appreciate seeing you and meeting you. Thank you.